mean, all intents and purposes, like maybe it was the field and a combination of the offensive line for the Chiefs being that good, but the defense, which I thought was going to be a big strength for the Eagles going in this game, was really
Did
negated,
not show up.
and
Did not
they
show
didn't
up.
show up. And
But we had this conversation before the Super Bowl, Puma, about how I truly believe that Eagles defense was a little overrated because we ran down the list of
yeah,
opponents they had this year, and there was no elite level quarterback they played this year. They played Dak Prescott, who hung a 40 on them. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers had some success on them, but this year, Aaron Rodgers isn't that elite number one quarterback, right? So, like, there was no Josh Allen, Burrow, or like, Mahomes on their schedule, and this came back to bite them in the ass. Like, you saw you saw a defense that had no idea what was going on. Like those two touchdowns that they ran the little like stick route and then back out with Kadarius Toney, and on the other side, I believe it was Sky Moore. It's
yeah.
the same exact play, and both times that defense is left holding the bag. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, did you guys even show up at all?
Right, and it's funny because Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator for the Eagles, just got a job as head coach
Oh my
for the
god.
Cardinals. But like all intents and purposes, like I'm not putting that on Gannon. I think that was more so like the player executing what the actual game plan was.
But what's your thoughts on the fact that they? Let me ask you this: did Patrick Mahomes make any tough throws in your mind? Because in my mind, there was a lot of soft coverage. Like
Hmm.
basically, the reason why Patrick Mahomes only threw for 180 yards and a lot of it was dinking and dunking, the fact that his biggest completion of the game was 14 yards, is because that Eagles defense was playing some of the softest coverage I've seen all year long. I was honestly shocked. I was like, why are they playing off and why aren't they pressing at the line?
Hmm. Well, isn't that kind of the motif? I mean, I know they like to play too high a lot throughout the season, so that might just be the defensive identity at that point. But I feel like they might have just been trying to dare the Chiefs to, actually run the football, which
Which they did well,
which
153
they
yards.
did. I mean, Isaiah
Mhm.
Pacheco took the bait, and we said it last week. Like he's the hardest running, back that I've seen, frankly for the season. I mean, he really was trying to move, and even after he got popped by, I think it was Bradbury, he got lit up. He had to leave the game for a little bit. Um, I I'm not really putting that on Gannon. I think that was more so like the defensive identity of the team as a whole for the season, and plus just
Mhm.
really execution wise.
Yeah. Yeah, and on top of that, I think you saw the severe coaching disparity between Nick Sirianni and Andy Reid. And obviously we get it. Andy Reid, has been around for years on end now, and Nick Sirianni is a newer coach in the league. But you saw Andy Reid just ate his lunch. He did.
Mm-hmm.
He simply ate his lunch. So, you know, congrats to the Chiefs, man. Everybody's going to be praising them. They deserve it. But in my opinion, Puma, I truly believe that Jalen Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes.
Oh,
The
I think
one
so.
thing that shocked me the most was the fact that Jalen Hurts, A, threw the ball really well, and B, ran the ball really well. Like some of these stats like that we have from the game are absolutely jarring. Like in total, Patrick Mahomes equated for about 220 yards of offense, 180 throwing, about 40 rushing, where Jalen Hurts was 304 yards passing and 70 yards rushing, which is close to 375 in total offense. And that was a shock to me that for some reason, Jalen Hurts was asked to do a lot more when the narrative was that team with the Eagles was just so much better than the Chiefs that it was going to be more of a well-rounded game by the whole team. In reality, Patrick Mahomes had to do a lot less. Like he's the one that relied on his team heavily to kind of like help him through the game. So I was super impressed with Jalen Hurts. I think the kid is on the rise. If I had to rank the quarterbacks right now, I was thinking about this earlier. Like it probably is going to be like Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson when he's healthy and right. Uh, at that point, maybe Jalen Hurts. Like I was thinking Trevor Lawrence or Justin
Oh,
Herbert.
above Herbie.
Well, I mean, I'm out on Herbie, man. What you
True.
see out of Jalen Hurts is pure heart. Jalen Hurts is made up of the right things. Where in 10 years from now, Puma, he will be a much better quarterback than Herbert. I already believe that he is. I mean, the way he was throwing the football, like I get it. It's not a rocket arm, but like what he's made up with his intangibles is just stunning to me. So I would put him in that 6-7 range right now. And if he keeps on this trajectory next year and gets better and better, I mean, who knows? He might start cracking the top 5 elite quarterback rankings.
Yeah. Everything you said about the coaching as well. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I was watching the game, obviously, and at times I was wondering, did like Boston Scott and Miles Sanders make the trip? Because I barely saw Miles Sanders on the field, and
Yeah.
Kenny Gainwell was getting a lot of run, and Boston
Mhm.
Scott was, I think he only got 8 yards in that whole game. So I was, I know there have been games where Miles Sanders just seems to disappear. I did not have that, during the Super Bowl on my bingo card. I did not think the whole running game was going to be predicated on Jalen Hurts that night.
Yeah, it was kind of shocking to see that Jalen Hurts had 70 yards of rushing, Gainwell 21, Miles Sanders 16, and Boston Scott 8. So basically, the majority, 65% of the rushing attack came from Jalen Hurts. Where on the flip side, Isaiah Pacheco had 76 rushing yards out of the total 158. Jeremy Kinnan had 34, and then Patrick Mahomes had 40. So, it was jarring to me because I thought going into this game, the Philadelphia Eagles were going to be able to do whatever they wanted. And they did for the most part, but when it mattered the most, it seems like that's when the inexperience or the coaching lack or whatever it was kind of really showed through for those guys.